Hello, everybody, and welcome to When Words Collide. Go Indy Now is here doing a live show, and I've got an incredible group of people with me to do this live show. And we've got an audience that you can't see. And welcome to anybody who is here. If you guys have a question or comment for anybody here, we're just going to have a nice casual conversation, talk about this great festival and what everybody's experiencing, and talk about writing and the people who do it. And these are 4 wonderful people who do it. So why don't we have everybody introduce themselves first? I'll go with Tracey first and just go down the line.
I am a full-time indie published author.
Hey.
I just released my 100th book.
Wow,
and,
nice.
We'll be celebrating tomorrow. Thank you very much. Genre fiction of all sorts: romance, science fiction, thrillers. They're the primary ones.
Nice.
My name is Marc Watson. I am a Calgary-based author. I have 3 published novels plus 2 short stories, one of which just launched 3 hours ago. And this is my second time sitting in with you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice. All right, Nancy.
I'm Nancy Bell. I'm a Balzac-based author, which is kind of north of Calgary. I have I have 16 published novels and 2 books of poetry. And I recently had a poem included in an anthology that's had really good reviews. And there's 2 in a thing called Vistas of the West, which is going to launch on the 4th of September. And all the proceeds from it are going to a women's charity.
Very nice.
Cool, awesome. All right, Josh.
I'm Joshua Pantalleresco. I write stuff in podcast too. I have my podcast Just Joshing, which this weekend, the 300th episode, is actually being recorded.
Nice.
Right, which is cool. It's currently episode 282. My first novel, The Cloud Diver, is going to be my first indie release. That'll hopefully be this November. I also have Alice Zero, which is a poem of Alice's Pandora, also coming out at the same time.
Nice. Well, and I'm Joe Compton. Everybody who's watching this knows who I am, so let's not waste any more time with me because we only have so much time. So for everybody here, how many times has this been for you guys? How many When Words Collide have you been to? And what do you think of the experience so far?
4 for me. This is my 4th one. So for me, this is always a fun experience because I get to chat and meet lots of cool people. And every year I meet someone new too. Last year I met a very wonderful individual by the name of Winston Pye. He's really cool. He's an awesome designer. I love his approach on it, and he's someone really neat. But I also have some familiar faces that I get to always see every year that I really, really enjoy. Sometimes this is the only chance I get to see them. So
Yes, yeah.
And I think this is 4 for me as well. And it's just great because it's such a affordable for everybody. So anybody can come to this. It's not like, I don't have the $500 to go to some of the bigger conferences, which is amazing about this. And everybody's so friendly. And I usually do some blue pencils and some pitches. And the quality of the work that gets put in front of you is pretty awesome.
Nice.
Time number 4 as well. And I always love coming to When Words Collide because it's so well organized, and it's always my benchmark for me as a writing professional about how far I've come, and I get to meet a lot of people, both old and new, and compare war stories, as it were, and just see how far I've come and how much farther I have to go.
Okay, well, technically, this is number 3 for me. But before When Words Collide, it was a science fiction convention. And I came to one of them 15 years ago.
Oh.
So I guess you could say this is my 4th as well. And I actually like coming here because, one, it gets me out of the house. It gives me a really nice opportunity to talk shop with a lot of people. And it also gives me a chance to pay it forward to all the up-and-coming writers.
Nice. Is there a particular panel or something that you guys are looking forward to doing this year that you haven't done before?
not haven't done, but I'm really looking forward to the Dr. Seuss off tomorrow.
Me too. I will actually be there this year.
Yeah. So, do you want me to give away the game now?
Well, that's up to you. It's totally up to you.
So,
if you want to give me a head start, that's totally fine.
It won't give you that much of a head start. This year, last year I got to I only brought 2 books. I brought Sarah Don't Say. I figured the original idea was I bring tongue twisting Dr. Seuss books and get the audience to read them, which is hilarious in of itself. And it was. But it got even better because when you get like 4 or 5 really amazing people reading Fox and Socks in a Yoda voice, a Russian voice, a Valley Girl off. There was a Valley Girl off, literally for Fox and Socks. It's in my head. There's also like it was a British voice. There's an Israeli. Like, it was a crazy fun experience. So I thought, how could I make this better? This year, I'm bringing 9 books. But here's the game: we are going to construct a story with those 9 books, and also teams are encouraged, and also based on last year's performances, I'm hoping to see something really creative. So that's the game this year. And as for me, I'll just be the prop. I'll just
It's very interesting because I just did a screenwriting competition earlier today, and it was the first one that I've participated and competed in tons of them, and so I thought I had everything I was going to have together, and turned out like I had 7 people sign up from the initial pre-sign up, but it turned out nobody knew that there was a pre-sign up, and like 20 people showed up all of a sudden. And I was like, oh man, I felt so unprepared. I was like, I printed out, I figured the 10% rule, right? You're going to have a couple people come and straggle in. So I printed out like 15, but I didn't prepare for like, so learning from the first year to the second year is huge, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Especially like for something like this, like I had no idea what to expect. Like the first thing was, would anybody play? After it's like, who wants to play? When the entire room raises their hand, you're like, well, this is a problem. I didn't expect that. And that's literally what you're thinking, right?
Right.
Because you always assume the worst case scenario, but very rarely it is the best case ever really thought of. So this literally was the best of all worlds. So I literally 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, I gotta make something out. Unfortunately for me, I had some amazing people in the audience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not sure how the panel went, but as it was awesome. I really pitied who was beside us, because whoever was beside us heard laughter for like nonstop for like 20 minutes on. So it's just like, yeah.
Nice. Very cool. How about for you, Nancy?
I think I really enjoy doing the blue pencil sessions with the authors.
Yeah, I've heard those are really amazing.
And the up and coming, and they're supposed to send you the stuff ahead of time, but some of them don't.
Yeah.
So it's always a surprise. But it's really nice when they do send it ahead of time, because you can give them some proper feedback, because you actually have a chance to read it and give them real comments, as opposed to trying to read and think at the same time.
Yeah.
Kind of like walking and chewing gum.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's usually my favorite part.
Have you read something that just blew your socks off?
Actually, one of the ones today was really awesome. Her first line was, "If I hadn't been dying, I wouldn't have been late."
Wow.
That's a strong line.
Yeah, and it's a kind of a sci-fi, edgy, speculative thing.
Yeah.
But it was really quite good. But yeah, the first line was like, I was like, okay, this is going to be good.
Is it anybody in this room?
No.
Okay. Okay. How about for you, Mark?
I'm really looking forward to, as soon as this is done, I'm doing a panel called The Magic of Making Magic.
Oh, nice.
And one of the main reasons I'm looking forward to it is I've done conversations like this and the nice kind of open conversations and podcasts and interviews. And this will be my actual first panel.
Nice.
Where like I'm sitting in front and giving my views on things, as opposed to just having these kinds of conversations where I had to actually prepare for things.
It's very similar.
It's not very different, but I think that's one of the, like I mentioned earlier, benchmarks, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to go in and remembering the first few years when I was just like cramming all these panels in, I was just like, oh, I've got something to say about that. And now to the point where I'm doing them and I'm contributing and giving back, even if it is just a short period of time. Like 4 years is not very long, but to go from the point where I'm soaking it all in to the point where I feel that I have something to give back, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm zipping right out of here and straight to that one.
Nice. That's awesome. How about for you, Tracy? Do you remember we were on a panel last year together?
It was a research.
It
panel,
was,
wasn't
yes,
it?
yes. We were on opposite ends of
yeah.
that.
Yes, we were.
It's funny, two indie authors who were battling it out.
Yes, I remember that very well. Actually, I actually have two. One of them's sort of a semi-promo. I have my 100th book release party
Nice.
tomorrow at lunchtime. lots of swag and door prizes for everyone. Hint, hint. But the other one I'm really looking forward to is Jonas Saul and I are doing a 2-person panel.
Ooh,
He
nice.
went from indie publishing to traditional publishing, and I went from traditional publishing to indie publishing. We are going to duke it out. And that should be really interesting.
Yeah, that should be great.
When is that panel?
It's Sunday at 10, I think.
Ooh, I'm going.
I'm probably going to be at that one. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going.
With your-
I'll be on your side for once.
As a general rule of thumb, I only record when I'm allowed to. So it kind of is, I find it saves beatings.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's funny because Jonas and I were on a panel last year about indie publishing, and he was like, "I'm not an indie publisher. I don't know what I'm doing here." I was like, "Well, you used to indie publish." He goes, "Yeah." And so he talked a little bit about that, and then he's like, then he would try to carry the conversation to the traditional area, which is pretty funny. But it was a good panel. He's very, very knowledgeable about everything, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So, well, as far as writing goes and things like that, do you guys find like this like gets you going? You guys get creative juices flowing a lot when you come to these things and invest the time?
Absolutely. In my case, I like it's really cool because I always get to meet and chat with just some incredible people. Like I got to chat. I ran into Jonas Saul in the hall actually on my way to dinner. So and we were just kind of like a really brief chat because he had to do a blue pencil and I was just like, go do your blue pencil, but we'll probably chat at some point down there. Like you always meet people that are doing very well, but even people that are up and coming. There's a fire to that you have to admire. And so when you listen to that, when you actually see that, hey, they're going for it, they have nothing to lose, it kind of reminds you where you are when you started, which is always a neat space to be in.
Yeah, because you go back to that and you think about it, and then you're like, I had a lot of energy back then.
Yeah.
What happened?
Things and stuff.
Yeah. How about for you, Nancy?
It's always awesome to come to conferences that like this and just feed off everybody else's energy and talk to people and it's amazing, you get 4 or 5 people together and you might not write the same genre or the right same things, but you just start talking and ideas start bouncing and you're like, oh, I could use that. or somebody comes out with something about something they're writing, some research they've done, and you're like, oh.
That's called stealing like an artist.
Damn right. And it works both ways. People steal from me too all the time because I'll get, so what would a horse do in this situation? Or because I'm a horse person, or different things. And the first time I ever had a blue pencil with Jack White, actually, and I had written this Arthurian fight scene that I don't normally write. And we had a conversation about how horses will go upstairs, but they don't like to come downstairs because my knight was riding his horse up into the hall so he could run somebody through. And he came back down with sparks flying and stuff. And a trained war horse will do that, but your regular horse won't. And so we had this conversation. It was just kind of cool. But you always find interesting people to talk to, and the ones that are up and coming and they've got that fire in the gut, and it's just kind of cool to help fuel that fire for them too, to say, hey, keep going and you can do it, and everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. How about for you, Mark?
Yeah, I have kind of a different mental take on it because for me, writing is not the main thing that I do, and I never want it to be the main thing that I do. It's a hobby I take very seriously, but I never want to do this full time.
See, I come to this thing every year hoping that changes for Mark.
No,
it's him. It's him.
No. It's okay. It's in the closet. He's just hiding it.
It's not.
Yeah.
It is.
Because my reviewer just read your book on our show.
I saw that, and I was
and-
so thankful about that.
And she loved it. She thought it was amazing.
When I talk to you tomorrow, I'm going to come at you on that. You know that.
Absolutely. Actually, I set myself up for it. It's that anti-author persona that I have crafted. That's not the persona, it's who I am. But coming to this, I mean, I spend so much time away from the writing world.
Yeah.
Especially like with my kids being busy and me being busy doing other things that I really love to do. This I make the time to re-energize me. I don't even have to force it. I just know that just being here and being around the energy that everyone here is talking about is going to be enough for me to refill that cup a little bit more and allow me to carry me through, because I want to keep getting better each year and reaching those new benchmarks. And this is the place to do it. And I can feed off that baffling youthful energy that I don't think I ever had when it comes to writing. And I can contribute, and I can listen and feel artistically. And this is the best place that I've found to do that.
Nice. Yeah. For those who don't know, I'm just gonna say, for the record, Marc is super dad, and that takes precedence over anything anyway. So that's it's pretty awesome. How about for you, Tracey?
Well, somebody recently called me a freak of nature to my face because I put out a book every 3 weeks.
Yeah, 100 books.
And yeah, counting. Actually, technically, 101 just came out yesterday.
Oh.
So, so for me, I don't necessarily need to be inspired. So when words collide for me is a chance to talk shop, get out of the house, and actually slow down. It's a break.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the event that's here, it's like there's a camaraderie. I don't know how many of you. I know that Josh goes to. It seems like you guys all travel to other ones as well, like Creative Inc. And there's a lot of crossover.
There's a lot of crossover at Creative Inc. For me, I'm in this weird little space is that I can kind of fit anywhere I want to go.
Yeah.
So
that's you.
Yeah, it is totally me, right? It's kind of my own little thing. So for me, it wouldn't be shocking to see me in Emerald City. Wouldn't shock me to see me in San Diego. Wouldn't shock me. It all fits me. It just does, right? But the thing about the show that's really cool is it's big enough that you can. You see a crowd of just amazing people that are doing things, whether they're just readers or writers, but it's small enough that I feel like I just met Tracey. Like, we literally came onto the podcast, and it was funny. It was funny because he's like, I didn't give her anything to listen. He's like, do you have any questions for me? Oh, we'll figure it out. But I'm not sure how we're like internal. It was like, oh my God, what have I signed up for? But
I also warned him that if you get me onto a subject, I can talk about it.
but it was very organic, right?
Yes.
It was one of those things. It's like, oh, we'll figure it out. I'm not really that worried.
I don't think you quite expected it to end up where it went going.
I never do. I never do, and that's the whole of my secret. So, anyways, right? So, but the thing about this show is you meet incredible people all the time. It never feels like if I go to San Diego, I can meet some great people. But the chances of me running into that same person again in that show is slim to none.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas here, okay.
Look at that, I'm across the table.
Right, exactly. Right. And that's the charm of the show. It's just the simple fact is, if I want to see you again, I can see Tracey again. I can see her. I want to see Marc again. I can. There's a way to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if this was San Diego, I'd be like, hi, Tracey, and we talk for 5 minutes, and I never see you again. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about the way that they've, kind of made this intimate that really sings to that.
Actually, I think one of the biggest positives for me is I don't have to cross any international borders to
Yes.
get to it.
Yes.
Yes.
Unless you're in the oil and gas industry, there's very rarely some kind of large grouping of people like this in Calgary.
Yeah.
That is world class, right? Like it not that we're like a little backwoods town, but we are off the beaten path. And to be able to have an event like this where we can come to and we know that we're going to be seeing top talent, and you're going to be able to talk to people such as yourself who has made a long trip to get here. Like, you are here.
Yeah.
Why are you here? Because why did you show up here last year? You have to answer the question. But
I can if you'd like.
I can make my own assumptions. You didn't just stumble in the door, just like, oh, I want to go on a trip to Calgary.
Can I be evil and ask this question?
Yeah.
All right.
Why am I here?
No. First, I know why you're here this year, right? But the first year, what was the allure that brought you here?
It was actually speaking to Mickey Bickelson. Actually, he and I, we started to just. I think we've had this conversation, you and I.
Yeah.
But for the audience, I met Mickey earlier that year because he was giving me people to do the shows for, and he was telling me all about this thing that he was a part of, and here it is, and When Words Collide, and he said, you got I hear you covering things, you got to go and cover this. I'll make sure that Randy knows who you are, and we'll talk to him and we'll get you here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, sure. And then I was like, the more and more I started to meet the people that I met, and I was like thinking, well, I would love to have, when am I ever going to have an opportunity to meet all my Canadian people that are here? You know, I mean, it's Susie Vidori, Con Lavery, everybody that was, you know, I met over time. And it was like, okay, cool. Now I have this opportunity. Why not take it? So, and this was a cool event. I thought it was well put together and thought it was worthy of covering. So I just took a chance and did it. And this year I'm back because it was so great last year.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So can I tell a fun story?
Yeah.
So Joe, when his first night here, I remember this. He was in the bar by himself, kind of like because he knows people, but he doesn't know people. I think it was me, right? I think we got you to come over to our table, and
that was a second day, but
yeah, it was second day.
Yeah.
It was just like, but I remember that because he lit up because you did light up a little bit because it was. I know this, like you do a lot of hard work for a lot of us. It's not just like you do, and it was for you. It's nice to be. I feel like you're appreciated here too.
Yeah.
I think that means a lot to you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it means good conversations, just like Tracey said.
Yeah.
It's a great place to talk shop. I mean, where else do you get a chance to do that? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's part of the reason why I do what I do. You
Yeah.
know, it's because I want to talk shop with people. I want to engage with people. I want to know what makes their creative process work and why they're so creative and how can they help? How can we help each other? You know, and things like that. So that's why I thought that's a great opportunity for this, and the people here are awesome. And let me just say, for the record, the Canadian border is the easiest and funnest thing I've ever done in my entire life. That is the coolest thing, the kiosk thing.
Yes.
It's so freaking brilliant. Whoever came up with that deserves a pat on the back because it's just the greatest thing ever.
It's so easy just to go anywhere with that.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so well organized too. It's like, okay, you go this line to this line. Okay, now you go over here to this kiosk. Just find one with a green light. Okay, smile. And then I had my hat on, and the lady got mad at me. she's like, I was like, it didn't work at first because I wasn't as far back, so it didn't get my whole face. So she's like, yeah, you got to step back. She goes, take off your hat. I was like, what? And then by the time it flashed already, and it worked, and she goes, okay, it worked. Don't worry about it. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing about the borders. I can't imagine trying to get into America. That's got to be a nightmare.
It depends on
where you go.
Yeah, it really
yeah.
does. Like Windsor, Detroit, not so hard. Here, I wouldn't want to try to cross. Yeah.
LA is the worst, especially if you're traveling on an Australian passport.
Oh yeah.
You.
You get photographed and fingerprinted, and you have to have a visa.
I was just an hour and a half layover in LAX, and that has got to be the worst human place on the planet.
Did you have to change terminals?
Yeah. No, luckily I didn't. I almost did. I almost got on that bus.
Okay.
And then she's like, no, 33B's around the corner there. Like I literally had to go around like 3 corners to get to where I was. It was like in this little corner. I was like, holy crap, what are we doing?
LA, Chicago's pretty bad too.
Yeah, that would have been my other choice. So I was like thinking, what's the better of two evils here? I've been in LAX before. I didn't been in this experience, but it was.
So I'll give you my Chicago story because it's there. So literally, my flight, I had to connect the flight in Chicago, and it was like, so I'm on one end, and the flight's on the other end.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing about O'Hare. It's a big freaking airport. It's huge. Even with a car. You might not make it.
Yeah.
Like you just might not. I made it with a minute to spare.
Oh my gosh.
1 minute. It was like I was debating on the way, and I'm glad I didn't do this because you go by a couple of food courts. It'd be nice to grab. No, keep going. You just don't know.
Always find your gate first. This is for anybody. Always find your gate first, and then explore. You need a drink, or something.
It's good advice. If you are in Chicago, plan for the worst, and that's like. You know what? I'm going to be on the other side of the freaking airport because that's just how it works.
Actually, Sydney is exactly the same. It's huge and rambling. And everything's always at the other end that you need.
Denver is very similar to here. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to take a train to get to the terminals. You don't have to do that in Calgary, but it's like it's just like everything about Calgary reminds me a lot about Denver.
It doesn't shock me. They're built very similarly. Yeah.
I'll say that O'Hare Airport, for me, my experiences traveling through there, one of them was so unique and bad that it inspired my first book. And the very first chapter
And
takes
that's what a
place.
writer does, right?
We
take
write what
experiences.
we know, but the very first chapter for Death Dresses Poorly takes place in O'Hare Airport, and it was
That's
almost
where the body is found.
there are no bodies.
Okay.
No,
I was going to say, you didn't kill anyone?
no. In my book, death doesn't kill anybody. Now you gotta read it and find out why.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that O'Hare just something about that place inspired that entire story. I had that first chapter. It was almost verbatim something that happened to me, and then the story went from there. So O'Hare is a place that
It's
breeds
special.
frustration and creativity
Yeah.
and Puff Daddy videos. I just want to say that from there too.
I'm curious for Tracey and Nancy, especially, is the number one question you get when you get here, when you meet somebody new, how did you write so many books? Is that usually the question that people ask you?
No, actually, they're quite
Probably about your accent, right?
Yeah, that's usually number one. Actually. Although someone today said, "What accent?" But in fact, I was talking to the Irish girl in the pub, and she's like, "What accent?" So, but no, usually the first question I get is indie versus traditional. Because I do it 100% indie, and I am full time, which is for a lot of indies is sort of like
The pinnacle.
ceilings. Yeah. So yeah, I quite often get questions about indie. I think that's.
How long ago did you start doing full time?
I started publishing. This is the short version. 1999. Traditional, had a day job up until turned to indie publishing in 2011. Went full time 2015. So we're 4 or 5 years now. So
Nice.
yeah.
Did you just have to leap? Did you just decide one time, or did you plan to gradually get there?
For the full time?
Yeah.
Actually, no. There was the thing that made the difference for me was I had resisted for years, and here's a tip, guys. I had resisted for years setting up a proper email list. And then I took a very expensive course that taught me how to set up a proper email list with autoresponders and reader magnets and stuff like that. I took that in March of 2015. By December 2015, I quit the day job. It made that much difference.
Wow.
So that was the key that got me out of the day job.
Interesting.
Actually, it's true. It's one of the things I'm doing right now is constructing a mailing list for my podcast. I'm not actually interested in necessarily distributing, but I'm doing giveaways. But that's one of the big reasons, because it makes it easier for me on the sponsorship level, because I can show a list of listeners.
Yeah.
Right. When I do that, so what tends to happen then is it builds on credibility. Now, obviously, you're using your mailing list a lot more actively than I am, because it's a slightly different goal. But they are huge. They give you a really good idea of who your demographic is.
Well, it makes you independent from having to find visibility on Amazon and all the other booksellers, because you don't have to worry about it anymore. You just tell your email list and they go out and they buy everything. It's great.
That's awesome. And you have, to be fair, you have one step out the door in terms of going full time.
Yeah, I'm realistically, based on the current trajectory I'm at, I'm about 2 years away, I think, from being comfortably full time. I said my podcast has started to hit sponsorship, which is great. So the next step for me is now getting to the point where I get to this. The number I want is 4 sponsors, 2 small, 2 big, and a mailing list. And once I get to that point, I should be at the point where it covers my rent. And at that point, between what I have planned for my writing. Right, I'm hoping between both of those together, I'm just doing something like different revenue streams. It'll just eventually click. I'm probably 2 years away from a proper construction of that, but I'm definitely heading in that direction.
Yeah, this is why Josh and I get along so well. He and I have similar trajectories. I mean, I had a 5-year plan laid out when I started this, and we're now in year 3, and so I do know where it's going to go to the next step and how I'm going to get 2 feet out the door. But but how about for you, Nancy? Is that the first question people ask you?
No.
16
books?
No, usually the first question is, why are there always horses and dogs in your book? Because there are. Because I work for an animal rescue, and the one book, Storm's Refuge, which is set in Longview, Alberta, the main character, Storm, is a dog that gets rescued, and it's kind of the catalyst that brings everybody together. And I have horses. I've had horses my whole life. I've been a teacher and a stable manager and the whole bit. So there's always horses and dogs in my books. And yeah, it's one of the first questions. How do you do that? There's always horses. Somehow there's always horses.
You said 1999 that you were actually thinking about publishing the first book, right?
I sold my first 2 books in the same week in March again to 1999. They both came out at the end of the year.
And they were traditionally?
Both traditional, yeah. I've actually, it's kind of great.
Because back then, doing indie
there
was
no option for indie.
Yeah.
The Kindle didn't come out till 2007.
Yeah.
And then sort of I hit the peak of when everyone was going, oh my God, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of kicked in. I indie published 1 book and then went, why am I traditional publishing? This is madness.
Yeah.
And spent the next 2 years trying to get all my rights back.
Yeah, everybody who knows me and knows this channel knows that in 1999-2000 timeframe, I actually was going to be traditionally publishing. I got blackballed from the industry, so that's how I ended up going indie 15 years later. But
well, you were smart. I was really.
I don't know about
that.
that.
Really stupid. I ended up having 35 books traditionally published before I got a clue. I wish I had figured it out earlier. So
I mean, it could have like you're quite like building your own network on you're taking over, man. I'm watching this. So I mean, it might have been a blessing in disguise. Maybe it was a mistake. Actually, we'll have to talk about that at some point. But,
maybe. You never know. I mean, back then, like Tracey was saying, there was no option. The people who self-published were the guys who were doing science manuals and
it was very icky.
Yeah. It was very, and vanity presses were very rampant back then.
Huge. Yeah, definitely.
So that's you didn't have that choice. Come 2015 when everything was, I caught the tail end of it. I mean, 2015 is the tail end, really. And so it's like that.
We're sort of into indie publishing too now. It's no longer a new industry. It's settling down, shaking out, and a lot of the people that were grabbing the low-lying fruit have gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now all the long-termers are hanging in there and developing they're learning the business.
And I think we're heading into 3, which is more of a hybrid model where people are starting to be their own press and grab people onto that press. And
so it ends up being a lot of cooperatives.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where the next phase of this goes in that respect.
Also, I was Joanna Penn, who is a great advocate for indie publishing. She put out a post recently, and she was talking a lot about AI. Having a lot to do with.
I think anybody who's not into the audiobook realm of this conversation and the things that we're doing, they're behind, because audiobooks are really going to be the next thing, and everybody's going to,
The trick with that though is at the moment audiobooks are very expensive to get into.
I know they are. There's a huge.
It's either if you can do it yourself, but then it costs you an awful lot of time and learning and equipment.
Well, so my first book's going to be done with a friend of mine. I'm still going to pay me through Dishnalis, but I've made connections in the industry there, so it's kind of one of those. I'm going to give this a shot because I like their product anyway, but I because it's the early end of it, there's going to be people that are going to be taking these plunges now, and it has to be. And I'm at that point, it's going to be me. And
I think the earlier you get into audiobooks, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at me; I'm sort of like 165 titles on. I can't afford to get into audiobooks all at once. It's just too expensive and fun.
But okay, so there's 2 thoughts of it. There's another reason I've been going the podcast route, and this is kind of the idea. This is going to start happening. We're going to say October. I'm hoping to have my book launched in November. That's the plan. But starting October, I'm actually going to be doing my own audio readings of my book. Now, I know the first book's going to get professionally done, but the reality is I have a podcast. I have the opportunity to create my own audiobooks while I'm doing my podcast.
Sort of like blogging a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Audio.
Yeah. But I'm not, like I said, I know this series is going to be done a certain way. But there's 2 reasons. I need to learn how it's done, but I also make connections, not just to her, who was doing the books with me, but also getting to know some really good voice actors and talents there, because this is something else I've also learned. You make good friends. It's a collaborative that everybody.
This whole entire industry is networking.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally is.
Yeah.
So that's this to me. I'm already thinking about how to do it, how to get in there, and also just, like I said, I already have a platform. So I'm taking advantage of what I already have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want a really scary thought though?
Sure.
Here's the scary thought. The Kindle was considered disruptive technology. How long before AI is good enough to read our ebooks for us, and we no longer have to produce audio, and then it's an open market again?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's already
Yeah.
kind of there.
It is there.
You can-
They're sort of a bit clunky now.
Yes.
They just need to smooth that out a little bit, maybe put some AI into it.
With the right
and
amount
yeah.
of kind of tweaking, you can have Siri read audiobooks easily. Like just
Does
have
it
Siri
sound
read a book.
natural?
With an accent and everything. No, I say that because Siri recently added accents, and
My husband's iPhone talks to him in an Australian accent.
and mine is Irish. I don't know, Scottish wasn't available. But I found that for the things that I'm having Siri read in a standard North American accent, it's clunky. It's a little bit smoother once you start having an
the
because
accents? Yeah.
it might just be because I don't have an ear necessarily for those things. So maybe somebody who's Irish would be listening to be like, that sounds like crap. That just sounds terrible. But I don't hear that, so it just sounds a little bit easier.
But that's,
for me.
I think we're not that far away from it. So there's a part of me that's saying, well, I don't want to spend all that money getting into produced audiobooks.
Yeah.
If
'Cause that's an
robot's
investment
about
for
to
you.
do-
Yeah.
if a robot's about to do it for me.
I figure AI is about 3 years.
Yeah.
I figure 3 years, probably prototype 2 years from now or at the end of next year, and then probably after testing. Yeah.
You're saying 1 year?
I'm saying a year to 18 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go.
well, I was kind of excited because I did it through ACX, but Storm's Refuge is just released in an audiobook, and the girl that did the narrative did it for a royalty share.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. See, I can't get anyone to pick up a royalty share.
So I kind of put it out there, and I'm like,
One thing
I have
that
no money to pay you. So someone needs,
Yeah.
if somebody's willing to do a royalty share.
The other thing I don't like about that is the 7-year exclusivity.
that's the
and
tough thing.
And that's the bitch.
Yeah,
That's
but
the bitch. But it's the first, I was kind of putting my feet in the water and seeing how it worked, and it sold like 40 copies or something. So
Nice.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, audio is a big, like, I know this just based on what I'm seeing my own podcast numbers. Like, people take the train, people go to work,
Mhm.
people do those things. And the fact of the matter is, we've become a lot more phone immersed. So, I can listen to a book, right?
Mhm.
I mean, really, I'm still telling my story, whether it's on the written word or whether someone's
Mhm.
listening to it.
Yeah.
Do I really care that much?
Mhm.
No. People are still listening, getting my content, listening to what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, story is story is story.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't matter what the medium is, as long as the
Yeah.
story comes across.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah, but for an indie, staying ahead of that is a valuable.
Well, but that's the glory of indie publishing too,
Yeah.
is we can pivot on
yeah,
a penny
yeah,
if we need
and
to.
we and we're very adaptable.
Yeah,
Yes.
whereas, I mean, the traditional publishing, they're still trying to figure out how to market ebooks. So,
Yeah, that's been a big debate this year with a lot of the panels I've done is, the pricing out of the marketplace of ebooks because the traditional marketplace doesn't really want you to go
yes,
that direction. Okay, thank you. So we have 2 minutes. Is that right? All right, 2 minutes. So why don't we say goodbye to everybody? So tell everybody where they can find you guys.
So just joshing, it airs Mondays and Thursdays generally, with the exception of this week. I'm taking a day off because of the con. But so Tuesday and Thursday this week, Monday and Thursday, everything else. One guest a week. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or on Podomatic. My next book, The Cloud Diver, will be coming out in November. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Pantalleresco.
Nice.
You can find me at www.nancymdell.ca because there's another author with my name. So I have to put the M in there or you find her. My books are available Indigo Chapters, Kobo, wherever, Audible for Storm's Refuge.
Nice.
And yeah.
Awesome. Have it for you, Mark.
You can find me at www.marcwatson.ca. That's MARC. And the .ca is important because also there's a marcwatson.com, who's also an author and a really great guy, and I've spoken to him a couple times.
You're nice.
Thank you.
That's right.
I am nicer. No. And you can find me on find my books, Death Dresses Poorly and Catching Hell Part 1, Catching Hell Part 2 are available Amazon, Kobo, all of the digital platforms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can find me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at @WrightWatson.
TraceyCooperPosey.com, TraceyCooperPosey.com. And you can find all 165 titles there. Also, there is a 4-book starter library free.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
So,
For the 3 people in the audience, is anybody going to be here doing the autograph thing so that they can come get your
Yes.
book if
yes,
they want?
yes.
Yeah, we'll be doing the autographs tomorrow, and my stuff's up on the shared author table right now.
Nice.
Do
Awesome.
so.
All right. All right. Well, that does it for us. Thank you to this great group for a great conversation. Of course, as we start to leave, I won't get the most people watching at the time, but that's all right. But anyway, so thank you guys for joining us, and remember that it's always time to go in now. And with that, we are done.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
You're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.